This is a recording from Osborne Books MATS Tutorial Chapter 4. Bill's Bicycle Limited produces bicycles. You are calculating the overhead recovery rate for the production departments for the year ended 30th of November. You've been given a partially completed spreadsheet by your manager to assist you in this task that includes the budgeted fixed overheads and the relevant departmental information. You must decide which basis of apportionment is appropriate for each cost and then allocate or apportion it. We then need to reapportion the two non-production departments, warehouse and admin, using the direct method. 60% of the warehouse time is spent on issues to assembly, with the remaining 40% being spent on issues to framing and making. The administration department supports the frame making and assembly equally. Finally, calculate the overhead recovery rate, formatting the spreadsheet so the information is as clear as possible. The overheads for frame making are to be apportioned on machine hours. So the overhead for frame making, 250,000, and assembly is on labour. So assembly, labour, 59,400. Save the spreadsheet in the appropriate location with the name given, and then on the worksheet 4.9 we need to carry out these exercises. So first thing it's asking me is to create a drop down list in B6 to B10, B15 to B20. So B6 to B10, control, B15 to B20. I need a data validation. So data validation, list, and the list is this here. We're now being told enter an input message. So complete the basis of portion using those given in the list, and a suitable warning. So that's in the error warning, and I'm just going to write down what it says there. Select the most appropriate basis of portion from the drop down list for each expense. And you'll see there's my first message, there's a drop down, and if I type something incorrect, I'll get my warning. So now I need to choose my appropriate basis. So building, floor space, depreciation, carrying amount, light and heat, floor space, rent and rates, floor space, and managers, number of employees. As you can see, these are exactly the same up to here. So I'm just going to copy them. And indirect, we haven't got any up here, so I'm just going to put that as allocation. Use an appropriate HLOOKUP formula along with the information on the worksheet 4.9 basis of apportionment. Complete the apportionment basis table F6 to J10 and then format them as percentage or currency as appropriate. So, a bit bigger. Apportionment. So we've got a table here to here, and there's my indirect staff costs. So I'll need to add them in at some point. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to go to HLOOKUP. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for floor space. So I'm going to put a $sign here just so that it's locking B. It can go down to B7, B8, B8, B9, but it can't go to A or C. Where am I looking for it? In this table. Don't forget your dollar signs. Now, frame making is on the second row. So I'm going to write number 2 and I'm going to write false. And then I can press enter and I can replicate that down as so. Now, if I replicate across, I'm going to get the same figure, but we know that I'm looking for assembly and assembly is 30%. The reason for this, I just need to change my 2 to a 3 because it's on row 3. Then I can replicate down. Same with this one, change the 3 to a 4. Replicate down. Same with this one, replicate that across, change the 4 to a 5. And then I can replicate that down. And it's saying total, so I believe it wants me to auto sum my data. I also needed to format it as currency for the ones that are currency, which is this and these two. Oops. Control. Change that to currency. Sorry, percentage. There we go. Change this one to currency, 0 decimal places, and change this to, because it's number, so I'm going to just change that to a number. Right, allocate and apportion the total costs in the budgeted fixed overheads for the year 30th. Use appropriate formulas and the data from apportionment table and add 4.9 basis of apportionment worksheet. So, first thing I'm going to do is add my allocated. So I'm going to go equals and add that. Equals and add assembly. Equals and add that one. Equals administration. There we go. And I believe I'm going to be asked to do total. So sum, open brackets, add these up. Then I can just replicate up. And our aim is to basically get our total to be the same there. So, allocate and apportion. So let's do this. We're doing frame making, so I'm going to go equals open bracket. I'm going to go 40% divided by the 100% multiplied by the 6,000. And if I want to replicate and not write this out every time, I'm going to need to put my dollar signs in. So on the J, I'm going to just lock beginning of the J. And on the E, I just want to lock the E so that you can go down but can't go across for both. So now I can replicate down and I can replicate across and then I can replicate these down. And if I've done this right, this figure should be the same as that figure. Use auto sum to do J15 to J20, which I've already done. I now need to put an if statement in K15, E15 to compare the total cost in E15 to the calculated in J15, showing OK if correct and error if not, and copy this down to K20. So K15. Here, I need an if statement. So first thing I'm going to do is go and get an if statement. So formula fx if, and what am I saying? I'm basically saying if J15 is the same as E15, then say OK. Otherwise, say error. And I think it said to replicate it down to 18. No, down to 20. No, replicate down to 20. Complete the reapportion of the warehouse and administration using the information given in the question and suitable formulas. Number 6. So I need this one here. So warehouse. Warehouse is being distributed, and it's saying here 60% was spent in assembly, 40% was spent in frame. So warehouse's figure is going to come down to a minus, so I'm going to go equals minus this figure, and then I'm going to go here into frame making, and I'm going to go equals open brackets this figure multiplied by the 40% in frame. Yep, 40%. Enter, which gives me 102096, and then I'll do the formula again, but this time multiplied by the 60%. And I need to do the admin now. So I'm going to be going equals minus this figure. And this is administration. Does it equally 50% in both? So I'm going to go equals open brackets this multiplied by 50% and equals open brackets this multiplied by 50%. Okay, and as you can see, this has gone to 0, this has gone to 0. That's the same total, which is brilliant, and that's the same total, which is brilliant. So it means I've done that correct. Enter the correct machine hours or labour hours for each department in B29 and B30. So I need to go back to my data up here. And it said that machine hours was for frame. So that's 250,000. And this one was 59,400. Calculate the overhead recovery using the round up formula to 2 decimal places for frame making in C29 and assembly in E30. I think that's supposed to be saying E29. Okay, so here I need to do a formula and I want to round up. So round up. So I want to round up F24 divided by V29, and I want that to 2 decimal places. And I'm going to do the same here, round up. And this time I'm going to be looking at assembly. So assembly divided by this to 2 decimal places, which gives me £6.98. Hide column E. So column E, right click, hide. Format the overhead recovery table to show green cells and bold italic. So I'm just going to highlight, home, format this to green, and I want the titles to be bold. And there you have it. This task is now complete.